Howdy everyone, we're back with some RPG horror stories. Today we're going to talk about another horrible DM, a player that's making fun of a new DM setup, and a power gamer. Gotta love those. Our first story is from Reddit user KeyBasket5798 and is titled DM Goes on a Power Trip and Kills the Table. They have a warning applied to the Reddit posting. Nothing explicit actually happens though, so nothing horribly explicit. Let's start the story though. This wrecked my sanity so bad. I'm leaving a written record of the RPG part of it. I'm in a better place now, but this DM horror story was mostly accompanied by a personal horror story I will not tell here. One of my best friends, T, wanted to make a D&D table with a wild mount setting, so I encouraged them to run it. It started as a table made among friends, some common friends, some of my friends. We were 6 players plus the DM, and the table lasted over 2 years in a wild mount setting with homebrew sprinkled over it. We would play online weekly when time allowed and had a rotation system because we had 3 shared tables that allowed each DM to rest and enjoy themselves as a player. My partner was also a player and a DM known as L. The third DM that ran a vampire-based table was known as G. T is obviously one of the other DMs. There were multiple red flags with T, but since we were among friends, we didn't really notice them. The trouble broke out after my partner L had a major surgery and I had to take care of him. Since that would be 2 players down, we stopped playing for a month. Then the incident trademark happened. This is already kind of a complicated start here. We have a table being run by 3 different DMs that kind of rotate out, which is a really cool concept. As a forever DM, I find it really nice when I don't have to DM and I get to be a player. So it's a cool idea. I'm sure it's very difficult to pull off. And I imagine that all 3 like tables involve different stories here. So they're doing like 3 different campaigns potentially here. Let's continue the story. There had already been signs. T had a self-insert character who was literally himself and looked like himself, except he was a warlock half-orc who led a secret rebellion to depose all monarchies in Exandria. The character had legendary actions and legendary reactions, as well as access to spells like Time Stop, Mini Vestiges, which are powerful magic abilities within the Wild Mount setting, and unprompted dream sharing, where we could catch glimpses of his backstory since the beginning. This character could also bring people back from the dead as a deity at some point because of no reason ever told to us in game, other than his main goal was to kill a god. We were level 7 to 8 at most. This character also had a close-knit group that helped him, and they were inserts of T's friends in real life. This was mostly harmless, except when he wrote in romantic tension between his self-insert and one of those friends, who later became a player at his table, known as S. S had rejected him IRL many years ago and had no romantic interest in T. T would insist, many times and in many ways. We found out about this after the incident. Trademark. Okay. Oh Lord. Okay, so let's say it all together. DMs should not ever have a DMPC. This story so far has red flag just written all over it. As a DM, do not ever do this. The fact that this self-insert is basically a shonen anime protagonist mixed with like a fucking god is going to destroy this table. I can tell you right now, just from the beginning of this. Also, as a DM, keep your weird self-insert romantic stories to yourself, and I highly recommend if you're wanting to do that, just go write a romance novel. Don't subject your players to this, and don't ever do DMPCs. Never, ever, 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 ever do DMPCs. Do not. You want to have an NPC that the party adopts, and you kind of have to play a bit because they've adopted this, Boblin the Goblin. That's fine, but do not insert a DMPC to play along with the people. You are everybody else in the campaign other than the PCs. Those are you. Good Lord. Let's get back to the story though. Of course, having a DMPC meant the story was often railroaded towards the resolution of his backstory. We would have no other relevant NPCs to help us, to ask for help, or to make alliances with. Every NPC that appeared would be tied to his PC as a DM, and those who were not were actively hostile towards the party, going as far as to leave wingless and without one leg in Eric Hockra, which is a bird-type player, and cut off both legs of the rogue. T always marked out that, quote, all actions had consequences. However, the consequences were always negative, and most of the time unpredictable. The killing of a character with a wish spell at the end of a session, or making an antagonist teleport out of the blue and kill my character while I slept. He also brought back one of the antagonists that we had killed beforehand, known as Trent Ickathon for those who know. Most combats felt really hard and disbalanced. However, T would always blame it on the party since we weren't a, quote, balanced party. And yet he would ban the use of certain feats or undermine those who he thought were too powerful. I had a Sage background and was not allowed to use it. It's a weird band. For those unaware, Trent Ickathon is a powerful wizard in the Critical Role Wildmount setting that was the Archmage of Civil Influence and was once a member of a group known as the Cerberus Assembly, which is like a magical organization within the Dwendalian Empire. Dwendalian Empire being a weird monarchy that tended to be more lenient towards those who are your like standard fair high fantasy races, so elves, humans, dwarves, etc., and had a tendency to hate what you will call quote unquote monster races, so orcs, half orcs, goblins, drow, minotaur, etc. He was a prominent antagonist in Critical Role second campaign. So I personally would not have much issue with bringing him back. He is a super powerful magic user. There's always some shenanigans you could do if you wanted to bring him back as a reoccurring protagonist. It's not a horrible idea. Though I am a bit worried because of the amount of fuckery on this DM's part it's quite disgusting. So if I was at this table, I would stop playing after the DM introduced their self-insert. We are not part of this table, thank Christ. Not sure on another topic here how this table enjoys permanent alterations to PCs such as losing limbs. I have never been a big fan of it, but with some tables it can work out. I had played at a table once where you could potentially lose limbs if an enemy nat 20. When a nat 20 got rolled in this, it was a short campaign I ended up playing, I didn't DM it. You would have instances where there was it's almost like a fumble table, but it's a wound table they would roll if an enemy nat 20 on you. And so like potentially you could lose limbs, and like even with the nat 1, there was a fumble table with it. So like you could, like if you nat 1'd and you missed your hit, you would, puke your guts up or whatever, or you trip and fall and stab yourself with your sword. It was meant to make things spicy and interesting, but also it could lead to some very horrible things. Or if an enemy nat 20's you, suddenly your fucking guys lost their leg, which can be cool or uncool depending on your thought process. It can really suck if the DM's rolling a lot of 20s in a session, because suddenly now you've got everybody's just a freaking amputee to some extent because a bunch of nat 20s got rolled or something like that, and that would not be fun. This DM using the quote all actions have consequences it's bullshit. They're using it as a cover to be a shit DM and to punish players for interacting with your world. Another note for DMs out there: do not punish your players for interacting with the world. Like, yes, there should be consequences for dumb actions, but if every time a PC interacts with an NPC or the world in general and has a negative outcome, your table will stop interacting with things. Though that's probably likely what this DM wants, because they seem to want everybody to kind of play out a fantasy novel with their self-insert being the main character. I ranted enough though. Let's get back to the story. On conversation, T would stress how his ideas were close to Mercer's ideas, Matt Mercer being the DM for Critical Role, and how much of a narrative table this one was thanks to him. We had combats every table or 2 tables. So every session, 2 sessions. T didn't react well to feedback that wasn't praising his table, but he was our friend and we had really good moments playing together. I think everyone at the table felt seen and heard as a player for some time, but then it all went kaput. It was like he stopped seeing us altogether. But after that month without playing came the fateful incident that would kill the table completely. We played once again after our month break, and after the session, he asked for feedback. Elle told him it was a slow session since we had trouble engaging with our characters after all that time. Somehow, that was what broke the dam. I guess you could say both. Okay, as a DM, I highly recommend asking your players for feedback to help tailor your games. Do not ever take their feedback as a personal attack. Always take it as constructive criticism. I have a feeling, though, a player is about to complain about the self-insert, and this may break T. Just a feeling. It's a hunch. Back to our story. A couple days afterwards, T came to the group telling he felt we weren't taking the table seriously, how he considered it a job, he was unemployed, the rest of us were not, and gave everything for us, and we wouldn't repay him because to us, this was just, quote, chilling with friends, and how it was L's fault we didn't play for a month because he had dragged me with him. Our friendship was already cracking, but that's another story. The other DMs, L and G, got angry because they felt he was not realizing they put effort on it too. And we, the players, also felt hurt because we had worked quite hard to be present even when life would not always allow us to play. Everyone had stopped doing things to be at this table because we really enjoyed playing together. We even organized in-person sessions that involved city traveling and other complications. I quit all the tables there because our friendship had also ended that day, not only because of the incident TM, but also more personal issues. I didn't want to make things awkward by still having to play with T on any table, so I just quit them all, knowing T would struggle with not playing on some of them. And even when I had quit the table, I made it very clear it was something between me and T and didn't really mind if they needed to play at my place again or similar. We agreed to have a talk afterwards to clarify what happened. T apologized, but started justifying himself on his, quote, imposter syndrome. Literally everyone on that table is neurodivergent. The damage, however, was already done. G expulsed him from his table because he thought it was unfair. T kept playing and I didn't. If I hadn't done something wrong, and L agreed to keep him reluctantly as long as there was no future trouble. Okay, just gonna say it. OP and L, they're saints. If I was L, I'd be mad that T was being a dick and blaming me when there was real life issues that stopped them from playing/DMing. Also, for T's credit, imposter syndrome can be a son of a bitch. I find, though, to myself, that if my players are coming back week to week to play, I'm doing something right. Because if they weren't having fun, they wouldn't be playing. I personally know that I'll never be as good of a DM as someone of the likes of Matt Mercer or Brandon Lee Mulligan, and that's perfectly okay. I'm here to have fun with my friends, and I'm here to tell a story. Not to be some god-level DM or voice actor like the previously mentioned people. T clearly has got some issues going on, perhaps stemming from their unemployment. Hopefully, they either got help or figured their shit out. It's a shame, unfortunately, that everything's fallen apart because of this. Let's continue our story, though. 1 week later, S also quit the table because of personal trouble with T. T killed her character off on the next session. One session was unusually hard for the players, where T maimed L's character again, the other leg. I assume L's in the air, Cockra. The rest of the players felt this death had been unfair and made a small letter telling him about the things they didn't agree with in manner of feedback to see if anything could be done at that point. He thanked him for the feedback, then proceeded to claim he was going to start to charge them money per session. Good Lord, because, quote, because of all the growth they made as players was thanks to him. They refused. T said he needed a month to think about things, and that was the end of the issue for a while. However, by the rest of the players who at this point used to be his friends but didn't want to have anything to do with T anymore, were fed up with his attitude and were only hoping for some kind of closure to the story. L also kicked him from his table after that. Holy shit. T is an asshole. Charging players because you grew them is the biggest crock of crap. As a DM, you should be proud to watch others at your tables grow as players. The entire point of D&D is to tell a collaborative story and to have fun. When I DM, I love when my players learn to play the game better, have more fun, and get to tell some awesome stories. Charging someone money because you help them grow is fucking bullshit. These tables need to rid themselves of T, and it sounds like they have, and it's unfortunately blowing everything up is what it sounds like here. Let's wrap this sucker up, though. Things ended the worst way possible. After a month, one of the players asked if it was possible to make any kind of ending. T spoke about making a retcon and having some kind of 100 table of random scenarios. Sounds like a D100. When the players stopped him and told him they wanted an apology first, T sent a big paragraph on justifications regarding how anxious this talk made him without saying sorry once. Players asked again, okay, that's not an apology. T sent a 2-minute audio guilt-tripping everyone for making him feel bad because he felt that they were asking him for an apology to humiliate him, then left the group. TLDR, DM thinks he's the next Matt Mercer, proceeds to lose most of his friends. PD, don't roast me because I was sad about this. To this day, this particular breakup of friendship hurts. T was my best friend since I was 16. I'm 25 now. Everyone at this table is 25 or over at that moment. I feel horrible for OP here. Real life relationships being ruined because of this really has to suck. I hope they find a better table, perhaps one without T, and hopefully with everybody else because they seem to get along. And they're able to maybe continue playing. And perhaps one day, T will look back on how they've acted and realize their mistakes and hopefully change their ways. And maybe sometime a long time from now, T can come back after they've grown. I feel so horrible for them, and I'm sorry this blew up all their tables. You need to make sure you're communicating, and you need to make sure as a DM, you do not take criticism personally. Any criticism or what you think is criticism is likely constructive because your players want to continue to play at your table. If your players did not enjoy your table, they would not come back week to week, month to month, year to year. Always keep that in mind. You do not ever expect yourself to be on the level of Matt Mercer or anybody who is basically paid and makes a nice living as a professional DM. Don't ever feel like that. Has this ever happened to you? Ugh, it's nighttime during the week and I'm so bored. I wish there was someone I could watch on Twitch. Oh, what good news, totally real person. Are you bored at night during the week? Do you want to talk TTRPGs and watch video games? Well, there's a solution. Davey streams on Twitch during the week from 7 to 10 p.m. Central Time. So come on down if you want to talk TTRPGs, video games, or want to watch me play games such as Coming in Kingdoms, Deliverance 2, or Marvel Rivals. I couldn't think up a fancy name for it, but you should come watch. Wow, thanks Davey, my boredom is cured. You're welcome, totally real person. And you too can benefit from this by watching me on Twitch. I stream normally 7 to 10 p.m. Central during the week, and I hope to see you there. Okay, our second story is going to be from user Educational Manor 835, and it's titled New Player and Fellow DM Insulted My Setup. Okay, this is a long one, so buckle up. I started playing D&D as a dungeon master 2 years ago with a couple friends. They really liked my style of DMing, so I started doing it with a larger group and more often after they encouraged me to try. I try to keep my campaigns open to pretty much anyone who wants to join, beginner or not. So when a friend of a friend asked if their friend of a friend could join my latest one, of course I said yes. For context, I don't own a lot of nice D&D equipment per se. I have digital copies of the rulebooks and guides on my iPad that I keep nearby when playing. My DM screen is homemade. My notes and designs are all handwritten. I use homemade figurines or ones I have from childhood. I hand design my maps, etc. I've never thought about it much before, and I don't think my usual players have either. This new person was a few minutes late to the first meeting. Not a big deal. When he showed up, he raised an eyebrow at my setup, which I didn't think much of at the time and kind of gave me a weird look. Fine, whatever. Later on in the game, a new person had a question about a rule, and I opened my iPad and scrolled through my digital player's guide to find the answer. Once again, he raised his eyebrows and scoffed. Okay, I'm going to interject here. I personally own physical copies of most D&D rulebooks when it comes to 5e. But I have digital for other systems like Lancer, Star Wars 5e, stuff like that. I love digital. Physical's nice. It's great to have a nice book to hold in your hand and to swing at people. Don't do that. But I love digital. I don't have to sit there and pull up the index and then try to find the exact rule I want, and try to find that page. I can hit Control F and search what I'm looking for, and it's wonderful. And if the PDFs are smart enough, you can click on stuff in the table of contents and it takes you directly to that page. It's great. Like, that's the shit. I love that. Don't scoff, random new player. Also, scoffing at somebody for having digital or like having homemade screens or handwriting their notes is a real good way to make a shit first impression. Doing a real good job there, new player. Let's continue. This continued for the whole game. When an NPC became a bigger part of the story than I anticipated, I took off my bracelet and placed it on the map to represent them. He wrinkled his nose. When I pulled out my childhood ogre figurine as an enemy, he scoffed, etc., etc. It was starting to make me feel insecure, but I was having a good time with the other players, so I ignored him. He steadily continued like this for the rest of the session. Finally, I was scribbling some notes down on a sticky pad when he snapped-ish. He said something along the lines of, "I can't believe this." I asked what the problem was, and he gestured to my stuff, calling me disrespectful for not bothering to make my setup nicer for my players. He said it was childish and ruined the fun for everybody. When nobody was siding with him, he texted his usual DM, who responded by saying that I, quote, wasn't a good dungeon master if my setup was handmade / not professional. That was kind of my breaking point, so I yelled at him and told him to go. Afterwards, a few of my players said that I was being unfair to him and defending him by saying that he might just be used to fancy setups, which I understood and can sympathize with. Okay, I'm actually going to go against this. I'm going to side with DM here. I can understand getting annoyed. As a DM, it is often anticipated that they do everything, and you have everything into play. That means getting maps or drawing maps, having the books, the player's handbooks, the DM's guide, the monster manual. And if you're running a specific adventure type, you need to have that adventure module. You need to have figurines. You need to have dice. If you're playing online, you need to have software. And on top of that, you're expected to put everything together, and you're expected to also set up scheduling quite often because you're the one running the sessions. This new player is being a freaking dick, and OP here is complete within their right to be annoyed at this person. And I'm a little annoyed at these other players for like getting mad at him for snapping at this person. This new player is being a dick. 2 other DMs out there. Do not be a dick to somebody else because they cannot afford or don't have what you have, assuming you're dumping a bunch of money on a really nice professionally made DM screen, dice, figures, etc. Just don't be an asshole. Let's continue. Yesterday he asked me about when the next session was, and I don't know what to say. Okay. OP could always, in this situation, just ask the new player if they had fun and if they'd like to continue playing. Though I find it kind of funny that the new player's being a dick because this DM doesn't have fancy professional DM screen, accessories and whatnot, but is also clearly asking to keep playing. You know, if this subpar DM with his subpar screen and his digital rule books is like clearly not good, then why are you asking to come back? You know? What OP could do here, because he wasn't sure what to say, is he could let this person know, hey, this is how I run my games. It's my preference. It's what I'm used to. It's what I can afford, whatever. If it's not your speed, you might want to find another table. Just simple, easy, nice like that. Put the ball back in their court to figure their shit out. If this new player somehow stumbles upon this video, God, I hope you learned from this and you're not a little asshole, because that was a dick move. Let's move on to our last story, though. So our last story is going to be from a user known as Birdie, titled "Brother Got to Experience the Full Brunt of a Power Tripper." Sorry, a bit of a rant since it's 1:45 a.m. Full disclosure, this happened to my bro who just got back from his late online session with friends. Apparently, this time there was a guy from a wider tabletop group who brought his own character. Immediately red flags popped up when my brother said this. Had the opportunity to go over a sheet on D&D Beyond after my brother said he was likely cheating. For context, he's a level 11 Warforged fighter. Okay, I'd be immediately nervous about someone bringing a previous PC from another table. Everybody and every table is run differently, so it can be a pain in the ass to get somebody converted to what a new table is. Plus, trying to manage those expectations with updating a PC to match the setting and the power level of everybody else at the table. Especially when you're bringing over an already created PC because that person already has time and love put into that character, and they may not want to see that character potentially get kneecapped. That way they can match everybody else at the table. To continue though, dude was running 2 20s, a 17, a 16, a 15, a 14, and a 12 for ability scores. Not super unusual for a high stat game. Except the rest of the party was a full 19 ability scores lower than he was. 90 total ability scores without modifiers compared to the rest of the party's 71. Clearly not standard array, but he got it from another campaign. So you just have to take him at his word. He has an extra feat for no reason, Probably something he pulled out of his ass to explain why he just had an additional feat, again, for absolutely no reason. Another reason just to not bring over PCs from previous campaigns at other tables. Some DMs, like I'm Mario, like me, sometimes like to give out a free feat during the campaign for fun. This can really throw the power dynamic of a table for a loop if you don't balance it correctly. Also, it sounds like the brothers table utilizes standard array when they made their characters, and it looks like this character, if we're giving them the benefit of the doubt here, rolled their stats. Though having 220s is, well, I guess by level 1 that's not horrible. Man, that's a super good character. Let's continue though. 25 AC on a Warforge. Okay, Warforge can be pretty tanky. Wait, what? I look into it. The dude is running +2 plate, the +1 Warforge bonus, and a shield. Okay, fine. A giant legendary Dragon Maul from Fizzbins, which isn't even being applied on the campaign being run. Always make sure with your DM that you can run things from other modules before you put them on your character. A +1 AC trinket, and a pair of daggers that grant +1 AC when wielded together. Again, from another completely random module. Again, get clearance from your DM before running shit from a module that they may not allow. I glanced at it for 2 seconds and understood that they were all handpicked by the guy to give himself as much AC as possible. Except that he shouldn't be able to wield a shield, a maul, and 2 daggers at the same time. Warforged are usually built with 5 arms. Very true. Good golly, Miss Molly. I have to wonder if the previous DM actually allowed this, or if this player is just trying to shove through some bullshit. I'm leaning towards the latter. Let's continue though. And then the class features, where he mixed and matched feats and features from the old player's handbook from 2014 and the new player's handbook to find the best stuff he could and ignored the rest. For example, he added the alert feat as part of his 2024 player's handbook fighter features, but used the old rulings where it grants higher initiative than the new one. This is all throughout his character sheet. Okay, this is a bit of a problem I have with using 2024 versus 2014. For the DMs out there, when you're running a table, I recommend if you're going to do 5e, you pick one of those rule settings. You pick either 2024 or the 2014. They're both valid. They both have their own stuff. Pick one out. Pick one though, and you stick with it. Trying to balance the changes can be very difficult for one PC, let alone an entire party. So if like one PC gets to dip in the 2024 stuff and the others don't, you're going to create a massive power difference here, because some of the stuff from 2024 has some really good updates that are nice and some of them are not. So just pick one. Continuing the story. I thought this guy must have been an idiot and didn't realize how D&D Beyond works, hence the mistake of his AC being so high. But he's fully aware of the rules and how D&D Beyond works and is just exploring it. Everything is tailored to min-max a super tank fighter, and he's just straight up cheating to make his character as powerful as possible. Okay. Certain tables can work with power gamers, but it needs to be a known thing and everyone needs to be okay with it. DMs, highly recommend you talk with your players who are wanting to potentially break the game. There are players out there who their entire love for D&D and tabletop is to try to make the strongest, most OP character possible. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you need to make sure that everybody else at the table is either okay with that or you're going to balance it correctly, because one player making a god tier PC can ruin the fun for those who aren't looking to break 5e and want to make flavorful characters. And I haven't even mentioned how he plays, but I don't really need to say much. Interrupting the DM, interrupting other players, hogging the spotlight, has to be the one to kill everything, power trips over NPCs who can't hit him, has to interact with everything without consulting the group, has to rules lawyer on everything, and basically bully other players into doing what he wants them to do. Jesus Christ, this continues. Stomps over the poor DM every time his precious character so much as gets glanced at by a hostile NPC, ninja loots all the chests that they find, and then complains when he isn't able to, despite being the only one with literally legendary magic items and over 3 million gold. And of course, because Discord only has one audio channel, unlike in an IRL room where everyone could talk, the guy hogged the mic, even from the poor DM just trying to describe the scenes and characters. Okay. This player needs to be spoken to about their conduct. If they don't improve, they should be booted from the table. This whole list of bullshit is horrible. These are all horrible behaviors. Ignoring the power gaming, these behaviors are all super rude and super inconsiderate to everybody else at the table, players and DM alike. Learning to balance who is talking and has high priority can be hard at first if you're doing voice call stuff like Discord, though the main thing is just don't be a dick. Generally, though, with Discord, it's not just like one person can talk at a time. Everybody can talk. It's just a freaking cacophony of voices, much like you would if you're all talking in a room. Let's wrap this story up, though. Again, I don't even need to say more than that, though I think I've already said too much. Either way, this sub has heard it all before. Safe to say, I told my brother that he needs to insist to his DM to kick this bozo out. Textbook, narcissistic, power gaming douchebag. I feel most bad for the DM who, as someone who has been in the same shoes before, doesn't want to cause conflict, but you gotta kick these guys out if you're petty with a flurry of fireballs, since his character has virtually no saving throw defense, or they'll ruin the vibe in the campaign. Rant over. TLDR, go read what I wrote. Why are you scrolling to the bottom of a TLDR if it's just another power tripper story? That's a fun TLDR. Okay. Personally, I wouldn't even kill off this guy's character. If you're going to take somebody off the table, just don't allow them at the table. If you're booting somebody from a campaign, you just go, oh no, their character left. Immediately. Just do that. This type of player will, given enough time, ruin a table and potentially the entire gaming group as a whole. You just got to deal with these ahead of time. Power gamers that are being super rude about it. People who are super rude of everybody else and not respectful of other people's time. Either all of the players need to gather together to have a conversation, or the DM. I'm the usually DM, so I prefer the DM handle it, just because the DM is often seen as a leadership role at the table. You know it sucks. These conversations are never fun, but you have to sit down and have these conversations, because otherwise your entire table's gonna explode and it's gonna be ruined and you're gonna be sad. So have these conversations, try to get them to fix it. If they don't improve, they need to find a new table. That is going to be it for me today. I want to thank you guys all for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's video, please hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe for some more. It does so much for me when you guys do that. I appreciate you guys all watching and sticking to the end of the video. Don't forget to comment down below on your thoughts on either of the 3 stories we had today, or share some similar experiences. I love getting to read your guys' comments. Also, don't forget to catch me on Twitch. I will see you guys all later. Have a wonderful one, everybody.